Well, I was inspired to record the complete Preludes of Alexander Skryabin in honour of the 100th anniversary of his death in 2015. It was a wonderful project to be involved in, not only for the sheer variety of material, of mood, of sonority, of colour within each of these very individual and different preludes, some of them only lasting a few bars long. There's really a whole world inside each of them. But it was also very interesting to trace the development in style over the course of the 27 years that he wrote them. Chopin had written all his 24 preludes in Mallorca, and perhaps with this in mind, Skryabin signed off each of his preludes up until Opus 17 from the place he'd written them. He'd been touring around Europe and had been in places like Amsterdam, Lucerne, Heidelberg and Bastille, where he saw a beautiful waterfall. Well, there are some wonderfully romantic preludes in the middle period, very lyrical and almost Rachmaninoff-like. But I think this doesn't last for long. We see the element of this kind of pained dissonance, which creeps in very definitely in his middle period. Skryabin was an unusual man, to say the least. He had a condition called synesthesia, where he saw particular colours with particular keys, and so he was involved in a whole sort of sensory, sensual world. He started writing very unusual titles, very idiosyncratic titles, before each prelude, towards the end of the preludes. For example, con poetico e delicio, again, something maybe attached to taste, and then also intense feelings, con cholera, rage, and con stravaganza with extravagance, so really very specific. One of my favourites is déchirant, which means wrenchingly or tearingly, and I think, again, this is something which we see is aligned to the dissonance and atonality of his style at that time. Well, what would have become of Skryabin had he not died prematurely after writing the Opus 74 set of preludes? Certainly we have Rachmaninoff to thank for making his work better known. I'm sure we would have seen him writing more and more in this atonal style, very much like Schoenberg in Vienna. However, Skryabin was not actually aware of Schoenberg's developments into 12-tone serialism. But one of the big projects he had in the pipeline was called Mysterium, which would have been a vast piece lasting 7 days, incorporating orchestra, choir. Again, location was very important, light, different smells. There would have been all these changing senses. So it would have been fascinating to behold that. But for sure, the aspect of tonality and mystery, I think, would have been a very, very important part of his compositions had he lived on longer.